Hello, everybody. Welcome to Zone Defense. We talk all things NBA and NFL. Be sure to follow us on Spotify at Zone Defense Podcast and on Twitter at Zone Defense Pod. We also wanted to give a huge thanks to all those that have recently subscribed. And if you haven't yet subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below because it really helps out our channel a lot. Also, leave a comment and let us know what you think the biggest surprise of the NBA playoffs has been so far. Today, we will be diving into the East and Western Conference Finals, as well as briefly going over the recent coaching changes and the NBA draft lottery. How's it going, Chris?
It's going well, Drew. I know you mentioned the draft lottery there. There's only really one thing I care about from the draft lottery, and that is the fact that the Detroit Pistons, got the first overall pick in this draft. Let's go, baby. It's Cade season, baby. Let's go. I know there's some rumors, there's some smoke saying they might trade the pick. They might take somebody else. It's not going to happen, man. It's going to be Cade. They're going to take him already. Like, let's just get this over with. Let's do the draft now, man. Let's honestly do it right now so we can take him, because this guy is going to be an absolute superstar. And it's crazy that we actually got lucky in the lottery, because this is actually the first time that the Pistons have moved up in a lottery before. So it's honestly still just surreal that we're actually going to get this guy. I figured, wow, we get the 6th pick, we get the 5th pick, we get a pretty good player. We get a guy that probably will be really good, but we weren't going to get a generational talent. Now we have the chance to draft one and really speed up this rebuild. It's just a perfect tank job by Troy Weaver and the Detroit Pistons, man. I don't have enough good things to say about this team and this GM just taken over instantly, and the culture here is seemingly going to change just like this. So it's really awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm actually, so I can't turn around right now, but this is a Ben Wallace jersey. I mean, shout out to him too. He was the representative for the Pistons that day. He was just, I don't know if you saw the quote he had, but he said, they asked him how he felt about being lucky, and he said something like, I don't have luck, I just outwork everybody. So he doesn't even have luck, he just outworks everybody. So I don't know how he outworked the ping pong balls, but he did, got the first overall pick. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned it's surreal, because I don't even think excited is the right word for how I'm feeling right now. It still doesn't really feel real. The last couple of days when I wake up, I'm like, oh yeah, we have the first overall pick. It's just insane. The last time we had it was before my parents were born, back when we drafted Bob Lanier, all-time great player then, but he was back in the 70s. So yeah, it's insane, and it's nice to finally be rewarded for watching all those crap teams like the Charlie V, Ben Gordon Pistons, and then the Rodney Stuckey, Brandon Knight, Greg Monroe, and then, of course, the more recent quote-unquote big three of Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, and Blake Griffin. Now to finally be rewarded. And it seems like, I don't know, all the reactions have been awesome, too. There's so many videos of, Pistons fans just screaming and losing their minds. And I also don't know if you saw the video of Dwayne Casey, jumping around like a little kid. When he found it out. And then also, I think the most important reaction video was that of Cade Cunningham, who seemed pretty excited to come. He said, I don't know if you saw the video, but he said, oh, Sadiq is FaceTiming me right now. And then someone in the background said, thank God it wasn't in Cleveland. So I think it's awesome that he wants to be here. I think we got a really solid core with Beef Stew, Isaiah Stewart, Jeremy Grant too. I mean, I know he's 26, but that's still relatively young. Killian Hayes, him and Cade should be able to work together and be in that backcourt together. I'm so excited. Of course, this is just the lottery, and we still need to make the pick. And like you said, there's a lot of news out there that maybe we're looking to trade it, maybe we're looking to take somebody else. I personally think that's just ESPN and the big media hating Detroit and not wanting their golden child Cade to come here. But honestly, who cares about ESPN? Who cares what they think? We got the first overall pick. Cade's excited, it seems like, to come here. Finally got our generational talent I've been a Pistons fan. I really got into them back in 08, 09 when I was 8 or 9 years old. And that's when their playoff losing streak that's still going on started. So it's been tough as a Pistons fan. So it's nice to finally get a win here for the first time that I can remember. It's awesome. And hopefully it'll kind of really sink in here these next few days. But yeah, it's like you said, it's surreal.
I honestly don't think it's going to sink in until he plays. He steps on the court for the Pistons, and I have all intentions of going to the home opener when Detroit plays, for sure, especially if they draft him. So, just a guy that I 100% expect him day one to be almost a superstar, man. I think this guy comes in the league, he's instantly a top 30 player, and he's going to change the culture of this team. I am curious to see how the Killian Hayes and Cade Cunningham fit actually works. because Hayes, I mean, they drafted him last year in the lottery. He's got a lot of talent, but he didn't show. He showed some flashes, but he didn't show. I don't think he showed enough to shy them away from taking Cade Cunningham, because this is a guy that he could defend. Probably the 1 through 4. He's a bigger guy, can probably play a little more off ball. He is definitely a guy that I want on the ball because of his shot creating ability. But I think if he works on his game enough, he's a rookie, so he's obviously got a lot of time to get better.
Yeah.
He can really improve his off ball game and make that fit between him and Killian Hayes good. Or they can trade Killian Hayes. They probably can get a lot for him. I would personally not let that stand in the way, because I've seen a few people say like, oh, the fit isn't there between Cade Cunningham and Killian Hayes. I don't care. This guy is a generational talent. You take the best player available and then you forget about it and let it work its course. If the fit doesn't work, you trade Killian Hayes, you get a lot for him. If the fit does work, you have two top 10 point guards in the NBA, or two top 10 guards in the NBA, I would say. And I really think that's the direction they needed to go, personally. And I think that Cade Cunningham really raises their ceiling. I think they're a play-in team at worst, and if they make a few more moves, could even be like an actual playoff team. You never know. But I say this instantly raises this team's ceiling and probably decreases the rebuild years by 2-3 years already, just getting this single player, because I think it's a franchise-changing piece.
I've seen a lot of comparisons with us to the Atlanta Hawks of 2019, 2020, when they obviously that was Trey's second year, I think, but they had Trey Young, and then they also got like DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish. They got a bunch of young talent, and they kind of struggled that year. The play-in tournament wasn't a thing, but they had a rough year in the last year. Then this year, they signed a bunch of veteran guys, and now look at them right now. They're in the conference finals. So I think next year, I think we should be a play-in kind of team. But then what we get Blake's contract off the books after next season, and we can maybe get a veteran big name free agent, bring him in to go with our young stars. Jeremy Grant will still be with us. I think he'll have like 1 year left by that time. It's awesome. I mean, Troy Weaver, I just hope he takes Cade, because there's also some talk out there that he doesn't care what other people think of him, and he's willing to do whatever he thinks the best move is. So maybe if he really loves Evan Mobley, I mean, I'd still be cool. If you would have told me, 72 hours ago, hey, you're going to get Evan Mobley, I'd be like, sweet. But the fact that we have the number 1 overall pick, I want Cade, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But obviously, I do kind of trust Troy because of what happened last year. I was against the Isaiah Stewart draft pick. I thought that was a dumb pick, and he was really good last year. So, I'm looking forward to it. And I honestly think Cade is very positionless. So I think the fit between him and Killian should hopefully work.
I agree. I 100% agree with that, Drew. And another thing is I just wanted to add to your point that we can get into the coaching changes so we can get into the main event. I just like to say that, with the Pistons rebuild, with Blake's contract coming off the board, that 2022-2023 free agency class is absolutely insane. So to me, this is literally just a perfect rebuild, because what I see happening is exactly what you said. Probably next year they'll be very fun to watch. A really good League Pass team for anybody not actually in Detroit.
And when's the last time you could say that? I mean,
exactly.
I don't know if you've seen those League Pass guys, but we're always like 29th or 30th out of 30 teams. I mean,
right. Nobody. Yeah, exactly. And I think now that number is going to instantly move up, because it's going to be a very fun team with a lot of young talent. And like you said, Jeremy Grant on contract for another year following that. And Blake Griffin's contract will be off the books. There is probably 20 to 25 top 50 players that are in that free agency class. And the Pistons getting Cade Cunningham means that they're probably going to attract free agents, because people are going to want to play with this dude and the rest of the young core as well. So this roster could legitimately be, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, this roster could be a contender in 2 years if they make the right moves. And I trust Troy Weaver, like you said. I think he's going to take Cade Cunningham at the end of the day. I think there's a very high likelihood he does. And I'll be a little upset if they don't, but at the same time, I do trust him. So it would suck, but at the same time, if they end up, trading back to 2 or 3 to get Jalen Green or Evan Mobley and get some extra assets, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, at this point, after winning the actual lottery, I want Cade. We need him, whatever it takes. We need Cade. Don't trade the pick. don't do anything with it. But if it ends up happening, it is what it is. I do trust Troy Weaver because he has done such a good job. This is, like I said, one of the best rebuilds in NBA history. I mean, you saw the process took 10 years. This isn't going to take 10 years. It's going to take
Yeah.
maybe a year or two now is how I see it shaping out if we take Cade Cunningham.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely took some luck, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Um, But yeah, and also I think it's good karma too, because if you look at our stats last year, I mean, we were in so many like clutch time situations that several teams didn't even have the opportunity to be in, and our record in those games was awful. I think it was like 4-30 or something
Yeah.
ridiculous like that. Um, but the fact that we were actually competitive and we just lost, and it wasn't a just brutal tank like the Thunder did or like some other teams
Yeah.
did. I think there was some good karma there, and that kind of worked in our favor, and we were hopefully going to be rewarded with Cade Cunningham. But I'm also right there with you. I'm glad you mentioned that. If we do end up trading back and get like a haul, or maybe even trade the pick for like a current All Star guy, maybe like I mean
Need
I
to
don't know.
be a young guy.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't be as in favor of that. But I think Cade is the move if I was Troy Weaver. But he's given me no reason to not trust him at this point. Because even Saban Lee, who was an unheralded second round pick, was pretty good last year. Same with Frank Jackson, Josh Jackson, all those guys. So it's the first time you can really be optimistic as a Pistons fan in, like I said, 15 years. I guess when Blake Griffin got traded here, it was kind of exciting, but there was also like everyone kind of understood like this might not be as great as we think it is,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's awesome. Real quick before you do the coaches, the Raptors and Cavs were obviously big winners too in the lottery. They moved up to 3 and 4, and the Thunder, I think they got with the 6th pick. They what happened to them was what I thought was going to happen to us, where they got screwed. They could have got 2 top 5 picks. They ended up only getting I think the 6th pick, so that kind of sucks for them. But yeah, I just wanted to briefly mention those, so we're not just talking Pistons all the time. But obviously, we're both super excited.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
I 100% agree, Drew. With the Raptors, I think were the big winners of the lottery besides the Pistons for
yeah,
sure. I think them moving up pretty considerably is huge for the Raptors. This roster is not bad, man. And if they can get Jalen Suggs now, I think that's the ideal pick for that team, the Raptors. It makes perfect sense to me because I think Kyle Lowry is going to be out of town. They need a new point guard. Jalen Suggs, I think, is an absolutely perfect fit for that roster. I think he's a great leader. He instantly, seamlessly will transition into that Kyle Lowry role. I'm not saying he will be Kyle Lowry right away, but he's a very good leader. He's a good passer. He can do a little bit of everything. That's what Kyle Lowry was. He's not the most
yeah,
talented guy in the world, but he's a guy that can do everything. He's very mentally tough. I think that's what Suggs is exactly what Suggs is going to be. So
yeah,
with the Raptors, I'm not saying they're going to be a finals contender next year, but I think that could be a very interesting roster if they end up getting Jalen Suggs. I think they will be pretty good because the roster has some talent. I mean, Siakam's a good player. Van Vliet's a good player. They still have Chris Boucher. If they re-sign Gary Trent, that's a good player. They might, they got some other guys on their bench that aren't too bad that are developing. I think that could be a very interesting team for next season for sure, especially when they draft Jalen Suggs. I think it's
yeah.
almost a shoe-in to go for him to go there.
Yeah, and he, like you say, he slides right into that hole. And real quick, because we do have to jump into the coaches really fast before we do the conference finals. But I also saw some potential trade rumors. I don't know if anything was confirmed, but like potentially a sign and trade where Kyle Lowry ends up in Philadelphia and the Raptors get Ben Simmons, or a 1-for-1 Pascal Siakam for Ben Simmons with Simmons going to the Raptors. So obviously, Simmons is not the most popular player in the world right now for good reason. But like if you get Suggs and Simmons along with what's already there with Van Vliet, I mean that's a decent team. That's a pretty solid team.
Yeah,
And I think Suggs could be Suggs being able to play with the ball potentially moves Simmons maybe more in his more natural position of small forward, power forward. Maybe he feels more confident he can shoot in Toronto. Who knows? But it's definitely going to be really interesting to see these next. I wish the draft was not a month away, so we wouldn't have
yeah.
to
Jeez.
wait around for a month for speculation and all these talks. But it's all entertainment, so I guess I get it. But we'll hop in now really quickly to the coaches. So since we last recorded, Brad Stevens is out with the Celtics. Rick Carlisle is out with the Mavericks. Nate Bjorkgren is out with the Pacers. Stan Van Gundy after just one season. Same with Bjorkgren actually too. But Stan Van Gundy's out with New Orleans. Steve Clifford's gone from Orlando. Terry Stotts I know you're pretty happy about that, is gone from your Portland Trailblazers. and then Scott Brooks is out in Washington. And then at the time of this recording, only 2 of those spots have been filled. Rick Carlisle, actually, just a couple minutes before we started recording here, announced he's going back to Indiana. He was actually the Indiana's head coach
Yep.
before he went to Dallas. So he's returning there to Indiana to be their new head coach. And then the Nets hired Udoka, and his first name's Ime Udoka. He was a Nets assistant. He's their new head coach there for Boston. So aside from those 2 openings, there's still 5 openings available. And Chris, which of those do you think is the most intriguing for you?
I think hands down, and I'm not going to be a homer. I'm not going to say the Blazers because I don't think it is the most interesting. I think the absolute most interesting destination for a head coach is the Dallas Mavericks. I don't think it's even close. This team, they were 1 win away from taking down the Clippers with Kawhi Leonard. And, they have Luka Doncic, one of the best players in the league. I think he's established himself as probably a top 5 player in the NBA now. So And they got Kristaps Porzingis, who was absolutely atrocious this year. Really disappointing season for him, and I think he, I just don't think he's the guy to be Luka's sidekick. I really just don't think he's good enough anymore. I think they need to trade him for I don't even know what for, to be honest, but they need to trade him at some point. This roster really isn't that good. They shouldn't be that good, but they almost literally they were 1 win away from taking on Utah in the conference semifinals. So it's Luka Doncic. I know that the rest of the roster right now kind of a mess. I know they have Tim Hardaway's a solid player, Jalen Brunson's solid player, but I think they really need a fresh start with the head coach that, maybe has a different perspective on it. I don't know who. Definitely don't bring in Terry Stotts. I think that would be an absolute mistake, but there's definitely some head coaches out there that could be pretty good fits for this team. So we'll have to see how it works out and what they end up deciding to do with Kristaps Porzingis, because I think that's the key with this destination being so interesting, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there is some concern with Dallas just because there's been some rumors out there. I mean, I think maybe some of those concerns are gone now that Carlisle is out of the picture, but there was some talk that maybe he doesn't want to be in Dallas long term anymore. So that could be concerning if you're a new head coach. But actually, we just mentioned him, Ben Simmons. I have seen some Kristaps and picks for Ben Simmons trades out there. I don't know if Simmons would make a difference and help Luka out in any part. But that's a potential Simmons landing spot. And I do think, Portland, I don't think Portland is that far off from Dallas in terms of intriguing landing spots for a head coach. They obviously have Damian Lillard, even though there are some similar concerns with Lillard. Much longer is he going to be able to stick in Portland? But they do have some nice pieces on that roster. They were also very close to beating the Nuggets in the playoffs. Nuggets were a good team. So that's intriguing at least. That's another spot I've seen Ben Simmons potentially being traded to. But I would actually honestly say, and this might be surprising, I think the most intriguing place is, I feel like we just said this last year too at the same exact time, is New Orleans. I think you got Zion, Brandon Ingram. I think they need to make some more trades there, which is, I guess, a bit concerning because the fit isn't great. You got guys like Steven Adams, Eric Bledsoe. But I guess the rumor is out there that David Griffin, the general manager, and the players wanted to play some of the younger guys more. Nikhil Alexander-Walker, Jackson Hayes, Kira Lewis, all 3 of those guys who have a lot of great potential. But Stan Van was like, no thanks, I don't want to play those guys. So maybe you get a coach that just kind of feels the room, meshes more with that team, and we could see Zion. He had a really nice year this year. And I do, weirdly enough, feel like it kind of went under the radar just because the Pelicans were so disappointing. So, and Ingram, too, he kind of took a step back from where he was in 2019, 2020. I think New Orleans is a very intriguing spot. The roster's there. Like I said, they could still make some more moves. Lonzo Ball is a free agent. It sounds like the players want him to come back. It's unsure what's going to happen there. I've seen Chicago as a potential landing spot for Lonzo if he decides to leave New Orleans. So there is some uncertainty like there is with all these spots. But for me, I at least think New Orleans, this might be crazy because, like you just said, the Mavericks took the Clippers to 7 games and probably should have won that series, if we're being honest. But I feel like New Orleans might even have a better roster than Dallas, if that sounds crazy enough. Obviously, I think Luka's better than Zion. But like I think Ingram is definitely better than Kristaps. You're looking at second stars. They're able to bring Lonzo back. They got a lot of young talent too in Jackson Hayes, Kira Lewis, Nikhil Alexander-Walker. Like I said, I feel like they might even have a better roster. I think they just need the right guy in place that they didn't have last year with SVG. And I think this team could be. I mean, they could. The West is tough, but they could maybe even make a Phoenix-like run next year if things kind of go right. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, the Pelicans for sure have some interesting talents on their team. Obviously, Zion Williamson, the headliner for sure. Brandon Ingram, like you said, took a step back a little bit last season, but he's still a very good player. And then I think Lonzo Ball is almost a lock to be gone as well. And I think you kind of touch up on that. I think Chicago's a very good destination for him to go to. So I don't agree that they're more interesting than Dallas because I think after those three, they don't have a lot to work with. I mean, they got Eric Bledsoe who stinks. They got Steven
Yeah,
Adams who stinks. I mean, there's not a whole lot of talent behind these their so-called big three. I mean, you Nikhil Alexander Walker's all right. You know, Kyra Lewis, huge fan of him, but he didn't really show much his rookie year. So I mean, it's definitely an interesting destination for sure because I think that the coaching decision definitely influences a lot of what their roster decision is going to be in the offseason. But as of right now, I'm not quite as interested as I am in the Dallas Mavericks or probably even the Portland Trailblazers. I think both of those teams are interesting for sure. And like I said, Dallas is my favorite destination for a new head coach. It's mostly just because of Luka, but also to see what they end up doing with Kristaps Porzingis if he's the long-term answer, which I personally do not believe he is a long-term answer at all, or if they can trade him for. And I don't even know what his value is. That's the thing with him. Like I mean, I could see him I could see somebody trading a haul for him because he has a lot of talent, but at the same time he sucks. Like I don't really know. Like the guy's just not very good anymore. I don't really know. Like I could see him being a freaking like a like a con salary dump or something like that. I don't really like is he a salary dump or is he a player that like has a lot of value? You could get multiple
yeah,
firsts, you could get a star for. I don't really know. Like I honestly can't answer that question. I'm not an NBA executive. I think people are going to value him very differently. So it's going to be I'm very curious to see if they end up deciding to trade him, which I believe they will, what what the package will end up being, I guess. So I think that move really is the move of the offseason for every one of these teams that has a head coaching gap to fill. I think is that's the move that could really signify a big change in one of those rosters.
yeah. I mean, I think it's safe to say they're definitely not going to get what they gave up to get him
No,
there.
definitely
Yeah,
not.
I mean that was what I think they gave up a couple firsts,
Multiple firsts.
multiple,
Uh,
yeah,
Dennis Smith,
Dennis
who really
Smith,
isn't
who
that good.
at the time though he was a heralded prospect. So
Yes.
yeah, so not a ton there. And weirdly enough, I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is probably the best player that came
Yeah,
back, and he
it's
was just
kind
a
of funny.
salary filler guy.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
pretty
But he's
insane.
actually really good too.
Yeah,
It's kind of weird how that works. But I mean,
yeah,
to be honest, I don't think the Knicks have done a lot with those picks. I think they got quickly with one of them this year. I'm pretty sure that was their
yeah,
first runner this year was quickly. So that was a pretty good pick. But I don't think it was a terrible trade for the Mavericks, unless I'm just totally missing a big piece that they got because I don't really think the Knicks got drafted any superstars with those. It wasn't the RJ Barrett pick or anything like that, and they didn't get Julius Randle from him or anything like most of their core
yeah,
is from different moves. But at the same time, Dallas, I mean, Kristaps at points has hurt their chances of winning games because he gets played off the floor with the pick and roll. I mean, he's just so bad at defending it, and he really hasn't been even a good 3-point shooter this year either. So what is he really giving you?
yeah,
I mean, he can't defend anybody and he can't make a three ball. Like it's a 7-3 unicorn that can't do anything. I mean, I just don't really get it. I think that's how it goes. But, we'll see how this offseason shapes up. Like you said, I think the Pelicans, to get back to that, is a very interesting destination for sure. But I don't know what they're going to be able to do this year, I guess, with that roster. Because I don't think it was all SVG's fault. I don't think this roster had a lot behind it. Eric Bledsoe's washed. Steven Adams sucks. And then, Ingram, that may have been more his fault. Ingram taking a step back, could have been his fault. But I still think this roster has a lot of work to do in what is a loaded Western Conference.
yeah. I mean, the Pelicans missed the play-in completely, and to teams like, no offense, like the Spurs, who I think, objectively speaking, look at the rosters. I think New Orleans has a slightly better roster than San Antonio, and even like dare I say, even Memphis. I know they made the playoffs and they kind of proved a lot of people wrong because they had a good showing, but I think their roster was pretty comparable to Memphis, like serious big holes, but also a lot of talent. And yeah, so I think hopefully their coaching, wherever hire they make, will hopefully make a big deal. Because if it doesn't, I think Zion might be out of New Orleans here very very soon. But let's jump in now to the conference finals. Like you said, the big ticket items here. We'll start out west. So briefly, just to talk about what happened in the conference semis. The Jazz, the Clippers did exactly the same thing they did in the first round. They went down 2-0, and then they came roaring back and won in 6 games, even without Kawhi Leonard there for the last 2 games, I believe. Terrence Mann went off. Paul George was looking at like playoff P, like in good playoff P, which was nice to see. And the Clippers were able to win that, make their first conference finals ever, if I remember correctly. And then the Suns Nuggets. I mean, this series was kind of over immediately. Chris Paul just took over. Devin Booker was good. The Suns just kept roaring, and they have kept roaring for the most part into the conference finals. They currently have a 2-0 lead at the time of this recording, but Game 3 is tonight. And yeah, in Game 1, it was a pretty close game. But the Suns, Devin Booker was a monster. I think he had a triple
Beast.
double. I think at 48 points, if I remember correctly. So that was awesome. And then Game 2, Paul George missed a couple of clutch free throws. And then DeAndre Ayton had one of the wildest buzzer beater game winners, alley oop off the inbound from Jay Crowder that I think I've ever seen in my life. So which is just absolutely insane. So they're up 2-0. I'll quickly just say what my prediction was before the series, and then I'll say what it is now, and then I'll let you dive into the analysis. So before, I would have said Suns in 6. Honestly, now I think I'm saying Suns in 5 because yes, we saw this before. The Clippers were down 2-0, and then they came roaring back. But the Suns didn't have Chris Paul. I thought the Suns were in danger. The fact they won both the games without Chris Paul, supposed to come back tonight for Game 3. I think this series is pretty much over already. But that's just my personal
Yeah.
opinion, especially because the Clippers don't have Kawhi. I know they've been playing relatively well without him so far, but I think they need him. And if it seems like I think the rumor is that he tore his ACL, but nothing's confirmed. He is confirmed to be out for Game 3, so there's some concern there. But yeah, so that's at least my take. But what do you think about this series?
Yeah, I 100% agree with your opinions on this. The fact that Chris Paul is back and they're already up 2-0 without him, it's over. It's Suns and 4, man. I'm not gonna lie. It's
Oh
I don't think
wow,
I
like
don't
the
think
guy in the video.
yeah, exactly. I don't think they're winning the game, man. I mean, Chris Paul isn't gonna let that happen. This is a revenge series as well, playing his former
Yeah,
team. So I think he's gonna play extremely well if he is. Yeah, it sounds like he is going to be back tonight, and I hope he does play tonight. Uh, and I think he's going to go off personally. But, I just want to touch up on, I mean, the first 2 games were really, really good, both games. I mean, Game 1, it was the Devin Booker versus Paul George show. Both guys really showed out. It was an awesome game to watch. Devin Booker down the stretch was really huge, hit some big time shots. Obviously, a triple double, his first career 40-point triple double, extremely impressive feat for a guy like Devin Booker, who's still very young and has a lot of room to grow. I think he's taken that next step to superstardom, in my opinion. Having Chris Paul off the floor, being able to win games by yourself, that's what it takes to be a superstar. And I think Devin Booker absolutely has what it takes. This guy is an absolute bucket getter. He's improved in the defensive end. He's improved as a playmaker. He's improved as a teammate, I think, not getting these empty calorie stats. He's
yeah,
huge down the stretch for this team. And I think that's part of the Chris Paul effect, really having, accelerating Devin Booker's maturity throughout his career, I think is what Chris Paul has done, which is just, I can't say enough good things about this move for Phoenix. I think getting Chris Paul was one of the best moves, and since I started watching basketball, one of the better moves I've seen. This was a guy that, it was a bad contract, supposedly, a guy that was, what is he, 36, 37, a very old player, but clearly has a lot of really good. I think he's still got a few more really good seasons left. He's not a guy that relies on his athleticism. It's about his intelligence. It's about hitting that mid-range jump shot. It's about playmaking. It's about being a good defender, being a good leader for his team. I think he's got a couple more years left to that with Phoenix. So if they can win a finals this year, I think they have a chance to run it back yet again next year. And it looks like the pathway is there for them to at least get to the finals now. And it's looking very clear. But they do have to get through the Clippers. I know I said they're going to win this series in 4 games. Clippers are still going to play them tough. They're not going to go easy on them. This is a
Yeah,
team that has a lot of grit. They've showed it in the first 2 games by nearly, I mean, a couple shots go their way. They're up 2-0 right now, and this is a very different conversation. Having
yeah,
Chris Paul come back, and they're like, oh, well, let's see, can Phoenix win 4 of the next 6 games and and actually take the series? So it's a very different conversation now. And I just want to, before we get into the other series, I just want to touch up on one more thing. Have you seen the angle from that pass that Jay Crowder made from the, like the side view where that thing is literally an inch away from the backboard? That pass was ridiculous, man. And that play, just a perfectly executed play by Crowder and Ayton. Just, I can't say enough good things about it. It just seems like Chris Paul and Monty Williams really have this team on cruise control. They got a lot of other smart players, Crowder being one of them. Ayton is taking massive steps forward. Like I said, Devin Booker. They got Cam Payne, who was playing. He was out of the
yeah,
league a year and a half ago, playing pickup ball with Ja Morant in the offseason. Now is a starting point guard right now in the NBA, and he just went absolutely crazy in game 2. And another guy, Mikal Bridges, you know very well that I love him. I think he's
yeah.
a great player. It's a very likable team. Obviously, your boy Frank Kaminsky on the team as well. Just a very likable group of guys. All of them have talent. All of them have a very, defined roles. Intelligent players with talent, with the ability to do a lot of different things on the floor. So it's just this Phoenix team is going to give anybody nightmares, and I think whatever team comes out of the East is in trouble for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, I think the Suns I think the title favorite right now. I mean,
Yeah, I have to be, man, for sure. I
it's
think
it's
they
that. I
absolutely
mean, I know a
are.
lot of people were saying it's like the Bucks to lose, but like you said, we'll touch on it in a second here. They didn't look great in game one. There's still some concerns there. And I mean, it's looking like the Suns are just on fire right now. And I thought, I mean, we didn't really have an episode, so we didn't talk about it, but I thought I was really worried when I saw Chris Paul had to go into health and safety protocols there. I wasn't sure how long he was going to be out for, and I didn't think I definitely didn't think they were going to win both games, and I was worried that they were maybe only going. I was thought they'd be lucky if they just won one, and then that would be a win. So the fact they won both of them is insane. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. It's not gonna. That's why I said Suns in five. Suns in five. It's because I think the Clippers will get one game. I mean, even if Paul George makes one of those free throws there at the end of the game, that alley oop is only a game tying bucket, and then they go into overtime, and anything happens in overtime. So, but yeah, I think it's the Suns are rolling, and we didn't. I know we didn't really talk about it, but then they just destroyed the Nuggets. They took care of the Lakers there down the stretch of that series. They destroyed the Nuggets all series long, and then they're doing the same thing for the most part against a really good Clippers team. So, yeah, it's fun to see because, like you said, they're a super likable team, and it'd be really great to see Chris Paul finally get just make the finals would be awesome. But if he wins it, and that really kind of cements him, I think, as a top 5 point guard ever. Because it's all with Chris Paul. It's always he's a great point guard. He's a great leader, but he hasn't even been to a finals. He doesn't have a championship. Yada yada yada. So for him to be like this caliber of a player, this old, is remarkable enough. But for him to win a finals too, just be awesome. So yeah, we're both definitely rooting for the Suns. I think it's safe to
Yeah,
say. But the
absolutely.
Clippers, like you said, Reggie Jackson's been awesome. I just trashed them when we talked about the lottery, but Reggie Jackson's been actually pretty awesome. Luke Kennard was pretty good there in the fourth quarter of game two. He made some
Terrence
nice
Mann's
shots.
game
Terrence
in
Mann's been
in the last
awesome.
series was
Yeah,
absolutely ridiculous. One of the best performances I've seen
yeah,
from a player that, relatively unknown, but he just randomly drops 39. Like, what the
yeah.
heck is that, bro? I mean, the guy missed like
Fire.
5 shots. You saw Donovan Mitchell. Do you see Donovan Mitchell's reaction after the game in the interview? He's like, 6 shots or whatever. He just kept
Yeah,
saying it, or because I think he was like 15 for 21 from
it
the
was
floor or
insane.
something like that. So
And
just
most of it was in the second half.
so absolute credit to the Clippers here. I don't think this is any indictment on the Clippers. They had Kawhi Leonard. This series would already be very
Yeah,
different. And
I
I
agree.
obviously Chris Paul, same thing with him not being back. But if both guys were coming back right now, this series would not be over by any stretch of the imagination. But the Clippers have been down 2-0 before. You never know, man.
Yeah,
It's possible. They haven't lost a game 3 yet. I changed my mind. I think they are going to win tonight. I think it's going to be a 4-1 series. I think they are going to win tonight, though. I think this Game 3, the track record throughout the playoffs, even last season, I think makes them. I think they're going to get a game, and I think it's going to be tonight. But we'll see. You never know. But it is, give this team a lot of credit though. They
Yeah,
are definitely fighting without. I mean, you could have easily just laid an egg out there, lost by 25 plus without your leader Kawhi Leonard. But Paul George has been awesome despite the missed free throws. He did have a very good game. Like I said, Terrence Mann, Reggie Jackson awoke from the dead. Luke Kennard wasn't even getting minutes
yeah.
in some games during the regular season. He's been huge for them. Marcus Morris, another guy that, when he plays good, they usually win. So, hey, they got a chance, man. You never know. It's not over yet, but I think Phoenix, the pathway is there for the NBA Finals. They just need to win a couple more games.
Even like Rondo and Beverly, like I know they've not played some games, but when they do play, like Beverly was playing really good defense on Booker in game two. And Rondo's had
They
some,
got in Booker's head big time. I
yeah,
mean, he didn't have a very good game. I
yeah,
know he was
yeah.
awesome in game one. He was bad in
He
game
wasn't
two.
good,
He
yeah,
didn't have a very good game. But Campaign was and DeAndre
yeah.
Ayton. If you would have told me Campaign was going to drop a 30 bomb in game two of the Western Conference Finals, I would have said you were high. But here we are. The guy went
Well,
absolutely. It was an efficient 30-point game too.
even if you would have told me that DeAndre Ayton's going to hit a game winner off and also have 24 and 17 in a game two of the Western Conference Finals, I've been like, and in 2020, whatever, 2021, I've been like, what? I mean, it's insane. It really is a Cinderella kind of story there. And even like Paul George too. I know he did not make those free throws and came back to being what pandemic P or whatever people were calling him, but he hasn't been terrible either in either
No,
game.
he's
I think
been very good. No, hasn't
he's
been
been
terrible.
yeah
He's been very good. He
yeah. And
was
I
awesome in game one and solid in game two, despite the missed free throws. Both games I thought he's played really well throughout the
yeah
playoffs, to be
I think
honest,
it's
and
going
he
overlooked
deserves some
because
credit.
people are focused so much on the free throws, which obviously you need to make those if you're a superstar, at least one of them.
Yeah,
But yeah, it shouldn't completely take away from him being really good here in these first two games, and also that latter half of the Jazz series too.
yeah,
But we'll hop out to the East now, and this is the Eastern Conference Finals that I think you actually predicted it to
I
be
did.
Hawks Bucks, but nobody else I don't think projected it. Everyone was kind of getting excited and getting hyped for the Sixers Nets conference finals, and both those teams, of course, fell and in really great game sevens. Philadelphia, we don't really need to talk too much about it. I don't think everyone probably knows at this point. The Ben Simmons uh, not shooting it when he should have shot it. I think he had three combined shot attempts, made them all, but he had three combined shot attempts in the fourth quarter of each game of this series. So that sucks. Joel Embiid, I thought was pretty good playing through injury, was really
Yep.
solid there. But
Did his
Philadelphia,
best to try to
yeah,
backpack them for sure, but it obviously he was
wasn't enough. He needs something. Yeah.
playing injured for sure.
So that was tough for the Sixers, but great job by the Hawks. Nate McMillan. We talked about it before we hopped on here. I know I've dogged him on this podcast several times of just being a mediocre coach and never winning a playoff series, and he's proved me wrong both times. Beating the Knicks, I thought the Knicks would beat him, and then he also beat the Sixers and made it to the conference finals. And just Trae Young's been awesome. Kevin Herter was amazing there in Game 7. I mean, shout out to the Hawks. I know we'll talk about them more when we dive into this series, but just a really Cinderella, amazing run by them. And then the Bucks too. I mean, I thought they were dead in the water too after KD had a monster. Was it Game 5? Just really took over there, hit some crazy shots to win them that game. And then I thought it'd be over, but the Bucks they really kind of dominated there in Game 6, and then Game 7 was just a dogfight. Again, it looked like KD won the game if his shoe size was just a little bit smaller. They would have hit that three and sent him to the conference finals, but instead it went to overtime, and that was just a rock fight. I think there was combined the team scored 8 points in the overtime period. It was
Yeah.
disgusting, but credit to them. The Giannis and Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, they weren't great at all the times, but they stepped up when they needed to and were able to send the Bucks to the conference finals for the first time. I think they haven't been. Oh, they just were there a couple of years ago, but they're trying to get to the finals for the first time since I think 1974. So it's pretty nuts for them. And the Nets, I mean, they'll be okay. I mean, they had some injuries there. They got to get some more pieces, I think, some big guys, and they'll be good again next year,
Yeah.
especially if KD, Harden, and Kyrie are still there. But since I started off with the Suns Clippers with my predictions, I'll let you start off here with the Bucks Hawks. Obviously, we're recording it after Game 1, where it looked like the Bucks had it won and the Hawks came back down the stretch. I think Trae Young had almost 50 points, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
Almost 50. He
Yeah,
had
it was like
47, 48 or something like
yeah.
that.
So he was
Great game.
nuts and gave him the win, which was I'll see what you think, but that was not what I expected. So I'll let you dive into your predictions, and then I'll kind of piggyback off of that.
You know what? Drew, I'm gonna double down. I'm gonna say the Hawks win the series 7. That's it is what it is, man. I don't know if it's actually gonna happen or not, but I mean I was just very impressed with Trae Young in game 1. I thought he played one of the best games I've ever seen him. 48, 7, and 11. Did take 34 shots. Didn't shoot great from the outside, but I mean he was still 50% from the floor. Made 10 of 12 from the line, including a lot of big crunch time free throws. And honestly, the Hawks really didn't get to the line that much in the game overall. I mean, neither team really got to the line that much. Surprisingly enough, they let a lot of, I guess they let a lot of plays slide. But I thought Clint Capella did a pretty good job defending on Giannis. He was on him a lot throughout the game. I thought he did a pretty good job. Giannis still obviously got him, but he was 14 for 25 and only took 2 threes. So most of those shots are in the paint. He missed 9 shots in the paint. So I mean that's not a bad day's work if you're Clint Capella, and they won the game as well. And then I thought, for the Hawks, John Collins was really good, 11 for 16 from the floor. Hit a huge 3 in the game too, right at the end of the game.
Yeah,
I thought he played a really good basketball game. He also had that unreal dunk too with the lob off the glass, and then he absolutely punched it home, like basically over like 3 dudes. I thought that was really good. And I also a point of optimism for me as well. I know Chris Middleton was really bad in the game, only 6 for 23 from the floor, but I don't think Drew Holiday's dropping 33 on 14 for 25 from the floor
yeah,
again in the
it was
series.
awesome.
He had a very good game after an absolutely miserable game 7 in the Brooklyn Nets series. But I think I'm going to take the Hawks in 7 games. Winning game 1, I thought this was a game that Milwaukee played pretty well in, but didn't get the win. And then Atlanta also played well, but I think they can. I think they can play better than that too. I mean, Trae Young, like I said, still only shot 50% from the floor. Like he had a very good game, but at the same time, like I think he can shoot better than that. He really didn't hit very many shots from the outside either. So I'm going to take Atlanta in 7. I'm going to double down. I did it last time when Atlanta won game 1 against Philly, and I was like, you know what? I think they're going to win the series in 7, and then they ended up doing it. So why not stick with Atlanta? Atlanta Phoenix in the NBA Finals would be a very fun series. I do kind of hope Milwaukee wins just for I think Milwaukee Phoenix will be a better series. I think that's the best
Yeah,
case scenario out of the 4 matchups possible. But if Atlanta gets there, it's a very good story for Trae Young and Nate McMillan. I almost said Nate Bjorken, but
yeah,
yeah,
not Dave Bjork. He's
not
out of a job now,
yeah.
and by all accounts, not a great person. But anyway, um, yeah, I mean, you made all really great points there. I'm having the Bucks. I will be honest. I would have said Bucks in 5, prior to game 1. So just so it's on the record there. But I think I'll have Bucks in 6. I just think they. You mentioned it there that Drew Holiday's not going to have that great of a game. I also don't know if Trae Young's going to be able to drop almost 50 again. I mean, everything really kind of went right there for the Hawks. I mean, Trae Young had like half of their points. I mean, that's insane. And I guess maybe you would count on maybe other guys contributing more, and that could lead them to making to the final. So, like you said there, but yeah, I mean, Trae Young his shooting percentage wasn't great in the Philadelphia series, so that is somewhat of a concern. And I just think with the Bucks, I mean, I think Holiday he something kind of clicked there in that end of that game 7. Like you said, he had a brutal series really as a whole against Brooklyn, but then he made a couple nice threes, some nice layups there at the end of the fourth quarter. And I think he had one of the overtime. Oh, he had the dagger. No, that was Middleton. Never mind. But he played really good defense there in overtime. He's the one that locked up KD on that final airball attempt. And then he was really good in game 1. I feel like Holiday might be like kind of turning a corner and being like, you know what, I'm done people trashing me. I'm ready to take over. Obviously, Giannis is going to Giannis, and I think Chris Middleton's going to avenge himself there after a tough game 1, like you mentioned. So I got Bucks in 6. I'm still putting a lot of respect on the Hawks, but yeah, I think the Bucks are going to do it. But obviously, I've bet against the Hawks literally every series, including this one, like I said, and they proved me wrong every time. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think Bucks and Suns is going to be the finals. It's going to be really entertaining. And yeah, it's 2 teams. I mean, really, all these 4 teams are teams that you really don't think of when you think of NBA champions. Because like I think the last champion out of this group was the Bucks back in the 70s. And the Clippers, I think the Clippers and the Suns have never won a championship in their history. So, and the Hawks, I think theirs was like in the 1950s. So it's been a while for all these teams. And it should be a lot of fun. But yeah, sticking with the Eastern Conference, yeah, I think it's going to be I don't know. I'm just worried that game one might have been the most entertaining game because I just think the Bucks are just head and shoulders better than the Hawks. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see, I guess. But um, yeah, and John Collins too. That's big because he was kind of non-existent there in that Knicks series, but he kind of really found his groove there against Philadelphia, and like you said, had a nice game there in game one. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. It's going to be a fun series, and I remember us at the beginning of the playoffs. We said we said, man, that second round matchup between the Sixers and whoever comes out of that Knicks Hawks series is going to be awful. And it turns out that team actually made it to the conference finals. So, but yeah, I think the Hawks took everyone by surprise, and good for them though. Good for them.
Yeah, regardless if they end up winning this series, I mean, Milwaukee's definitely the better team, so no shame in them losing this series if they end up
Yeah,
doing it. But I really have been very impressed with Atlanta. I mean, they absolutely bullied the Knicks in that first year. Like that wasn't even a series, almost a sweep, to be honest. And then to beat Philly, who I mean, this is a very good team that I think is similarly talented to Milwaukee. Maybe Milwaukee's a little bit better, but Philly was
yeah,
a one seed for a reason. This is a formidable foe that I think a lot of people expected just to walk into the conference finals with their
yeah,
seed line.
including us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I didn't after when
Yeah,
Atlanta won.
I did. I mean, at the beginning of the playoffs,
Yeah,
I
at
did.
the beginning of the playoffs, I expected them to pretty easily make it to the conference finals. You are correct. But, now that Atlanta's there, I mean, hey, they're playing with house money right now. I mean, this is a team that has nothing to lose.
Yeah,
They're still a very young team that's going to have plenty of chances to improve and get back here. Um, but at the same time, Milwaukee is a formidable foe that is going to be tough to take down 3 more times. But I think Atlanta has what it takes. Like I said, I think they're going to win in 7 games, but we'll see.
yeah. I mean, it's like you said. I mean, honestly, if the Hawks would have lost Game Seven to Philadelphia, it still would have been a successful season. They're playing with house money. I mean, heck, it was a successful season when they just beat the Knicks, and it was a successful season when they just made the playoffs. Period. I mean, it's like they're just insane right now. And I remember we trashed them a lot, especially when they had to make the. I mean, they made a coaching change mid-season. That's how bad their things were going. They were
Yeah, I mean
in
they
danger
were
of
a
missing
team
the
that was
play-in.
outside. I think they were outside of the play-in when they made the coaching.
Yeah,
I thought they were like the
they were
11 or
awful.
12. I think they were like 14-22 or something like
Yeah,
that at one point, and then they just went on an absolute tear to get to the
yeah.
5 seed in
It's
the East,
insane.
which
It's insane.
isn't the same as the 5 seed in the West for sure. Definitely don't have to win as many games in the
Yeah,
East as the West, but it's still a very impressive feat that they were so good down the stretch that they were able to get the 5 seed and then just keep it rolling into the playoffs. And now they're 3 games away from making the NBA Finals and having a chance to win an absolutely Cinderella-like championship, which would
it's
be
insane.
crazy
It's
if they could do
nuts.
it. But also, it'd be pretty cool. I've never been the biggest Trae Young supporter, but I've definitely gained an infinite amount of respect for him in this
Yeah,
playoffs. I think
I agree with that.
he's gone from a player that I think a lot of people considered an overrated player that scores in game and doesn't win to a guy that is an absolute professional bucket getter in the playoffs. And I put a lot of stock into guys playing well in the playoffs. So even I do
Yeah,
it I use it as a crutch when I'm defending a player that I really like. So I have to give it respect to a guy that maybe I'm not the biggest fan of. I have to give him respect for the same thing. This is a guy that has had a magical playoff, one of the best players in the playoffs. So a lot of respect for Trae Young doing that. I'm still, more of a guy that I love to hate. He is very fun to watch, but he's also a guy that is a perfect NBA villain in a league that needs a few
yeah,
more of those guys. So, and I think he fits a perfect role there.
I agree with that. I definitely gained a lot more respect for him. I'm still not. I don't like him. I'm not the biggest Trey Young fan. But in terms of respect, definitely, he's definitely proved me very wrong with a lot of the criticisms that I had of him previously. But yeah, I think. I mean, like I said before, these series are going to be hopefully pretty entertaining and hopefully set up a really good NBA Finals. It's nice that it's refreshing that it's going to be someone new. It's not going to be LeBron. It's not going to be, I mean, Kawhi, I guess maybe, but not going to be the Warriors. It's something new. It's going to be really nice to see. And actually, shout out to us too, because I think both you and I were both 3-1 with our picks for the into the conference finals. Because I think you had Hawks, Bucks, Suns, and Jazz, and then I had Clippers, Suns, Bucks, and Nets. So we each only got one wrong.
Yeah.
So really good job by us. But did you have anything else you wanted to add here before we get out of here?
No, I'm just looking forward to seeing who ends up getting out of these conference finals games, and looking forward to talking about the finals with you, man. As well as looking forward to watching Cade Cunningham play in a Pistons jersey.
Of course, super excited about that once again. But yeah, that'll be it for this episode. We are the Zone Defense Podcast. As Chris mentioned, we'll be trying to do these basketball hours after leading up into the finals. We'll probably do like a post-finals episode as well, and then I mean, we got to do some sort of draft coverage too, especially if the Pistons end up with Cade Cunningham, and we'll probably do some off-season stuff as well. Then in addition to our NBA stuff, we have an NFL tight end tier list coming out here pretty soon. And then after that one comes out, we'll be really starting to jump into our fantasy football rankings, our fantasy football mock drafts, as well as our division previews as we look into the 2021 NFL season. So, as I said at the top, definitely make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Spotify and Twitter at Zone Defense Pod, and search us on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss any of that awesome content. Smash that like button, drop a comment down below. We talked about a lot of awesome, possibly controversial topics in this episode in regard to the draft lottery, who the Pistons should take, the coaching changes, what do you think is the best job, as well as just the NBA playoffs. Who do you think is going to win each series? Do you think either of our takes were insane? Definitely leave a comment down below. So we love reading all those and trying to respond to them as quickly as we can. But once again, thank you for listening to this episode, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.